Have you ever like thought about what we might actually miss about being human? If we achieve all those like futuristic transhumanist goals.
Hmm.
Kind of strange, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're going to dive into today. This whole idea of uh, post-human nostalgia. We've got this article here by Vikas Cohen, and get this, he's a transhumanist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
It's pretty fascinating because you'd think someone who's, so into pushing those boundaries of human potential would be like totally gung-ho about leaving those limitations behind.
yeah,
But in this article, Cohen seems to be kind of like grappling with, what we might actually lose.
for sure. So, okay, just a super quick refresher for anyone who needs it. Transhumanism is basically using tech to enhance human capabilities.
Yeah.
Like way beyond our natural limits.
Right.
Something like superintelligence, no more disease, maybe even like immortality.
Right.
But Cohen is exploring this idea that achieving those things might actually make us nostalgic for the things about being human that we're trying to like transcend.
Yeah. And that's like the paradox where like we want a better future, we want progress.
Right.
But like, what if that progress comes at the cost of something that's like fundamental to the human experience?
Exactly.
What if we're like aiming for perfection and then we lose sight of the things that make us unique, the things that give our lives meaning?
Totally.
Yeah.
So let's unpack this idea of like the paradox of perfection. Cohen says the imperfections that we see as like problems to be solved might actually be super important to like our human experience.
Okay.
Like he brings up serendipity,
Huh.
those random moments of joy, or like you discover something amazing just by chance.
Think about it. You take a wrong turn and then boom, you find like this incredible view. Or you bump into someone and it like changes your whole life. Those things wouldn't happen if algorithms were making all the perfect choices for us.
It's like that feeling when you stumble on like a new song or a band that just blows you away,
Yeah.
compared to like listening to a playlist that's like perfectly curated.
Yeah.
There's something magical about finding something unexpected.
Absolutely. And Cohen even suggests that we might lose that sense of serendipity in like creative stuff too.
Oh, interesting.
He asks, would art have the same power without like heartbreak and suffering? Would we still have art that like really moves us, that we connect with on such a deep level, if we didn't have those raw human experiences?
Makes you think if great art comes from our struggles, like our imperfections.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about some of the most iconic musicians, writers, artists. Their work is so connected to like their struggles, their pain.
Right.
Would their art be the same without those experiences?
It makes you wonder about creativity itself, right?
Yeah.
Is it something we can like engineer and optimize? Or is there something more to it, something that goes beyond the technical parts of making art?
Totally. And it's not just art either.
Right.
Cohen also talks about this like emotional flatlining, like in this pursuit of being perfect. What if tech gives us the ability to just like smooth out all the highs and lows?
Yeah.
No more anxiety, no depression, just like being content all the time. I mean, on the surface, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, it does. But Cohen's like, hold on a sec. Would we even miss those like extremes of emotion? What if those highs and lows are what like make life interesting?
Yeah.
What if they help us understand joy, love, connection, all that stuff?
It's like, would we even recognize happiness if we'd never been sad? Would a sunset be as amazing if we didn't have like darkness to contrast it with?
Totally. And Cohen goes so far as to say we might even miss pain.
Pain. I don't know about that one.
Okay, think of it this way. Like when a headache finally goes away,
Oh, yeah.
or like that feeling when you push yourself physically.
Okay, yeah.
Those good feelings are stronger because of the pain.
Right.
Could getting rid of pain actually make us less able to feel certain kinds of joy?
That's actually a really good point. Like, we need those
Right.
challenges, those uncomfortable moments to appreciate the good stuff even more.
Exactly. And this leads us to something else interesting that Cohen brings up, what transhumanism could do to our bodies.
Right. He talks about, like, leaving our bodies behind.
Yeah.
Like, we might change our bodies so much that they're totally different from how they are now.
Augmented bodies, cybernetic enhancements, maybe even like uploading our consciousness into a computer. All this stuff is like what transhumanists are thinking about. And while it's super exciting, Cohen asks, what are we leaving behind in the process?
He has this great example. Like, you're eating this perfect meal engineered by AI, perfectly balanced, all the nutrients you need,
Okay.
but then you just crave like a simple greasy burger from when you were a kid.
Right.
What does that tell us about like being human?
It shows that sometimes the imperfections, those sensory details that aren't perfect, are what make experiences memorable.
So we might have like perfect health, perfect bodies, but still miss those simple, imperfect things from our past.
That's the irony that Cohen's pointing out, and he even goes as far as saying we might miss pain.
Okay, I'm still trying to wrap my head around that one. Why would we miss pain? It's not exactly pleasant.
He's not saying we'd like seek out pain, but that not having any pain might actually make our emotions less intense.
So it's about contrast again.
Exactly. It's like when a musician uses silence in music,
Yeah.
it creates tension, drama.
Okay,
That silence makes the notes after it sound even more powerful.
I see what you mean. It's not about rejecting technology or progress. It's about seeing that there are things about being human that we might lose sight of in our quest for like a better future.
Exactly. And that's the tension that Cohen's dealing with in this article. He's not against transhumanism, but he's asking us to think about the costs. What are we giving up in trying to create a world without limitations?
It's deep stuff, for sure. I bet our listeners are already having some thoughts about all this.
Yeah.
But there's so much more to explore. We've just scratched the surface of this post-human nostalgia thing.
So welcome back to our deep dive into post-human nostalgia. We've been talking about some pretty mind-blowing ideas.
Yeah, like what would we actually miss about being human in a future that's like designed to, go beyond all those limitations?
Right.
I have to admit, this article by Cohen has really got me thinking. It's like he's pointed out all these things in our lives that we just take for granted. Our imperfections, our emotions, even our bodies.
And what's interesting is that Cohen himself is a transhumanist. He's not against technology or anything.
Right.
He believes tech can improve our lives, but he's also asking some tough questions about how we deal with that progress.
Totally. It's not about like rejecting technology. It's about being aware of what we might be giving up.
Yeah.
And in the next part of the article, Cohen focuses on our connection with nature.
Yeah, he calls it the disconnect from nature. Basically, the idea is that the more advanced our technology gets, the more detached we might become from the natural world.
Which is kind of ironic, right? Because like a lot of the problems we're having with the environment are because of technology.
Exactly. But Cohen is imagining a future where tech might give us complete control over nature. Like we could eliminate all the unpredictability, engineer the perfect environment.
So it's like we'd be trading the real beauty and power of nature for some kind of like fake artificial version of it.
Kind of. He gives this example of craving the peace and quiet of a forest, like hearing the leaves rustling.
Oh, yeah.
In a world that's super connected and full of AI, it's like
Right.
even if we create these amazing virtual realities, there's still something about those raw, unfiltered experiences in nature that we need.
Think about it. Feeling the dirt under your feet, the smell of rain, looking up at the stars. Those things can make us feel grounded, connected to something bigger than ourselves. Would those experiences even feel the same in a world where we could just create them whenever we wanted?
That's what Cohen is asking, and he also points out that historically, overcoming challenges in nature has made us stronger, more resourceful. What happens if we get rid of those challenges completely?
So we might lose touch with the beauty of nature, but also the resilience that comes from facing those challenges.
Exactly. We might become weaker, less able to adapt if we don't have to struggle against the elements anymore or deal with natural disasters.
Like those struggles are part of what makes us who we are. They give us a
Yeah.
sense of accomplishment, like we have a purpose.
And that connects to a bigger theme in Cohen's article, the idea that our limitations actually help shape who we are.
Like they force us to be creative, to find solutions, to push ourselves beyond what we thought we could do.
Exactly. And that brings us to another really important part of being human, that Cohen talks about our connection with each other. You might think technology is making us more connected than ever.
Right.
And we have social media, instant messaging, video calls. We can talk to anyone, anywhere, anytime. But Cohen goes deeper into this in the section called The Fragility of Human Connection.
This is where he talks about AI matchmaking, right?
Yeah. Imagine algorithms could find your perfect partner based on your personality, your interests, your genes.
Okay, yeah. On the surface, that sounds pretty awesome. No more awkward first dates, no more heartbreak. But I can see what Cohen's getting at.
Yeah.
What about the excitement of meeting someone organically?
Yeah.
Not knowing if things will work out.
Exactly. And what about all those messy, unpredictable moments that can make relationships stronger?
Right.
The arguments, the misunderstandings, the times when you have to figure things out together.
It's like we're trading real human connection for some kind of like prepackaged fake version of it.
Right, and it goes beyond romantic relationships, too. Cohen says we might lose authenticity in our communication if AI is involved in every interaction.
Hmm.
Are we really connecting with each other or just with, like, the ideal versions of ourselves?
It's like we're all wearing these perfect masks online,
Yeah.
showing everyone how great we are, but losing touch with the real imperfect person underneath.
Yeah, and that can make people feel really isolated, like you're surrounded by people but still feel alone.
So if we take Cohen's argument to its conclusion, transhumanism could lead to a pretty lonely existence. Disconnected from nature, from each other, from our true selves. Kind of a scary thought.
It is. But remember, Cohen isn't saying this is going to happen for sure. He's just making us aware of the potential problems so we can be more careful.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we take advantage of technology without losing what makes us human? Earlier, we talked about Cohen's idea of humanity museums. Could that be part of the solution?
It's an interesting idea, and in the next section, Cohen goes into more detail about what these museums might be like and what role they could play in a transhumanist future.
So we're back, and I gotta say, this whole concept of post-human nostalgia has really gotten under my skin. It's like we're on the verge of this amazing future, so much potential, but then there's this question, like, what are we giving up to get there?
Yeah, and that's exactly what Cohen is trying to make us think about. It's not that progress is bad, but maybe we need to be careful about what we might lose along the way.
Right.
He calls it the irony of progress. Like, we achieve everything we ever wanted, and then we end up missing the things we left behind.
It's like, be careful what you wish for, right? We want to get rid of disease, aging, all that stuff. But what if we end up feeling empty?
Yeah.
Like disconnected from what it actually means to be human.
It's a pretty powerful idea, and Cohen isn't just trying to make us feel bad.
Right.
He really wants us to think about how we can move forward without losing our humanity.
Okay, so let's talk about solutions.
Yeah.
Before we talked about Cohen's idea of humanity museums, like in a future where we've overcome our limitations, we create spaces where people can go to experience those things that we don't have in our everyday lives anymore.
Exactly.
What would that even look like?
Imagine, like, virtual reality experiences where you can feel what it's like to run a marathon,
Yeah.
pushing your body to its limits, feeling that exhaustion, and then the rush of crossing the finish line.
Okay, yeah.
Or a simulation where you can go through the awkwardness of a first date. Those butterflies in your stomach, the excitement of that first kiss.
It's like preserving those experiences for the future, a record of what it meant to be human before transhumanism.
Right. And Cohen even asks, would these experiences become like products?
Oh, wow.
Would companies sell nostalgia? Like, you could pay to experience heartbreak in virtual reality.
That's kind of creepy, but also interesting.
Right. Would we actually want to experience things like hunger or pain just to feel something real?
Yeah.
And would those experiences even have the same meaning if they were manufactured? These are the kinds of questions Cohen wants us to think about. He doesn't have all the answers, but he's pushing us to really consider the future we're creating.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into post-human nostalgia, what are the big takeaways? What do you hope our listeners will remember?
Well, I think the most important thing is that the future isn't set in stone. The choices we make today will shape the world of tomorrow. And as we explore all these possibilities with transhumanism, we need to remember that progress should help humanity, not destroy it.
I love that. We might not have all the answers, but at least we're asking the right questions.
Right.
And maybe in the process of asking those questions, we'll discover something even more important than technology, like a deeper understanding of what it means to be human.
Maybe the real challenge isn't about going beyond our humanity, but learning to appreciate it even as we change and evolve.
It's a great thought. And on that note, we'll leave you to think about this fascinating concept of post-human nostalgia. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.